again. Happy Tuesday. I know it's been a little snowy today, so I wanted to choose a book that had something to do with travel. Now that we're stuck inside and it was snowy, so it was even harder to shovel all the snow out, it had me thinking of traveling somewhere. I wish I could travel someplace. So I chose a book called Livingstone Mouse that has him travel somewhere and go on an adventure. Let's find out where. So this is called Livingstone Mouse by Pamela Duncan Edwards and Henry Cole. Livingstone Mouse was an explorer. Look what he has on for a hat. It's a little leaf. He spent his days running here and there, investigating this and that. One night, Livingstone's mother said to her little mice, "You've grown too big to live in my small nest. It's time for you to find places to build nests of your own." "I'd like to build my nest in the greatest place in the world," cried Livingstone. "Mother, where's that?" "Well," replied his mother, "I have heard that China is very nice." "That's it," announced Livingstone, kissing his mother goodbye. "I will go to find China." After a while, Livingstone came to the biggest building he had ever seen. "It's already divided into nest places," said Livingstone. "That's incredible. This must be China." "There's lots of room," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. A loud clicking noise came from the next door. Livingstone saw a beetle doing somersaults. "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do you do that often?" "I do it all the time," replied the beetle. "I'm a click beetle." Suddenly, an angry voice yelled, "Stay over on your own side." "Stay over on your own side yourself," yelled a second voice. "I don't know why I live with you. You never stop complaining." "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do those things argue often?" "All the time," replied the beetle. "Cockroaches are so argumentative." "I had no idea China would be so noisy," cried Livingstone. "China?" laughed the beetle. "This isn't China. Why don't you try going that way?" You think he's going to eventually get to China? What is your prediction? Livingstone scampered in the direction the beetle had pointed. He found himself in front of a tall white shape rising majestically into the air. Up on one of its slopes ran a rope ladder. "That's fantastic," said Livingstone. "This must be China." I don't know about you, but that doesn't look like China to me. That looks like a regular old sneaker. And that rope ladder, what does that look like to you? To me, it looks like some regular laces. He ran up the rope ladder and down into the dark interior. "It's nice and quiet," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. A nasty, musty human smell hit Livingstone's nose. "Ugh," he gasped. "I had no idea China would smell so bad." "China?" chittered a camel cricket. "This isn't China. Why don't you try going that way?" Livingstone ran on, gulping in air to get rid of the nasty smell. Ooh. He skittered to a halt before a steep slope made out of pieces of thin, woven wood. From the top of the slope, Livingstone could see peculiar objects scattered around a cloth. "That's wonderful," said Livingstone. "This must be China." Do you think he's at China yet? With a leap, He landed on the cloth. It's quiet and there's no bad smell, murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. Livingstone noticed a bottle with a big drop of red liquid dripping from its open neck. He took a big mouthful. That's what he's drinking out of. Yow! He howled. I had no idea food would be so hot and spicy in China. What do you think he actually took a sip of? That looks like hot sauce to me. China, barked a raccoon on his way to the trash can. This isn't China. Why don't you try that way? Off Livingstone Mouse goes again, in search of China. Livingstone plodded off, his tongue still burning. Soon he came to a square room with an open gate at the entrance. In the middle of the room, a piece of cheese lay on top of a slope. That's neat, said Livingstone. It's quiet, there's no bad smell, and I'm sure that's mouse food. This must be China. He sat down to plan his nest. Livingstone's mouth began to water at the thought of the cheese. I'll only eat a tiny piece, he thought. Run! Someone squealed so loudly the cheese began to wobble. Eek! Screeched Livingstone as the gate clanked down, trapping the end of his tail. So if you look on the previous page, we can tell what he thought was finally China was a mousetrap. Dear, 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 fussed the voice. That was a silly thing to do. Two large rats heaved at the bottom of the gate. You're lucky, said one of the rats, holding up his tail. Look what happened to me. I had no idea living in China would hurt so much, cried Livingstone. China, laughed the other rat. This isn't China. Why don't you try going that way? They said together. So Livingstone scurried across the damp grass, shuddering to think what might have happened to his tail if he hadn't made it out in time. Eventually, he came to a tall wooden post. Sitting on top of the post was the perfect little house for a mouse. That's amazing, said Livingstone. I love the pointed roof and big picture windows. This must be China. What does that look like to you? What do you see sometimes on the side of streets or sidewalks? Yeah, looks like a street lamp. Do you think that will be his home, or do you think he'll keep going? It's quiet, murmured Livingstone. There's no bad smell, no food to sting my tongue, and no mean gate to hurt me. He sat down to plan his nest. With a loud pop, light flooded the little house, blinding Livingstone. Livingstone wiped tears from his eyes. I had no idea nights would be so bright in China. He sighed to a Luna moth above him. China? Gulped the mouse shyly. This isn't China. Why don't you try that way? Isn't that a pretty moth? Poor Livingstone. He had a headache from too much noise. He felt sick from the bad smell. His tongue hurt. His tail throbbed. His eyes were stinging. And he still hadn't found China. Wearily, that means like when you're really tired, he set off again. Then he saw it. It lay on its side in a shaft of moonlight, glistening blues and whites. It had a bridge to enter by and a large inner room with a secret passage leading out on one side. Oh! Gasped Livingstone, hardly daring to breathe. This is the greatest. What's that look like to you? A bat glided over Livingstone's head. Excuse me, called Livingstone. Could you tell me what great place that is? Oh, that, sniffed the bat. You don't want to bother with that. That's just some old china. Some old china? But I've been looking everywhere for china, cried Livingstone. This is where I want to build my nest and live happily ever after. Look, that teacup is some fancy old china. And that's exactly what he did. Look at him building his nest. So, did he find actual china? Or just some china, like fancy cups and plates? Looks to me like he found one version of china. I hope you enjoyed our read aloud for today, and stay tuned for another one tomorrow. Bye, everyone.